I showed you guys the story of Hind Rajab. It was one of the most heartbreaking, horrible things I've ever heard in my life. And I'm gonna play it for you guys so we don't forget this little girl. So let me, sorry, I get emotional every time I talk about this. I'm gonna keep playing this. I'm gonna find you guys the clip. And I want you guys to see why I go so hard at these. I'll keep playing it. This child was so innocent that she didn't know she was dying. She barely even understood what blood was and what was happening to her. So every time you guys see me go into one of these spaces and I call these Zionists or genocidal maniacs because I don't give a fuck, I'm saying that on behalf of Hind Rajab. Dude, you are so wrong. It's incredible. If you're going to make the argument that in America are negotiating good faith, I have multiple examples of that.
Tel Aviv is getting pummeled. Okay,
yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
So,
can I respond to
Just to be clear, I would say that,
bro, I gave you 3 different factual examples of how they are not negotiating good faith. I'll turn it there.
Okay. So
all right. I don't even want to engage with them, dude. So now you guys know why I fight so hard, deal with the demonetization, deal with criticizing, deal with losing my Shopify store, losing my monetization, losing opportunities, becoming persona non grata, where people are terrified to have me on, but I don't give a f. And this is one of the main reasons why I go so hard on talking about it and red pilling you guys.
We are aiming at military targets, but the Iranian regime.
That Henry guy, chat, he's probably a Joe. Dude, the only people that like say and do dumb shit like that, it's only the dude. Hey, yo, this is why I hate debating Zionists, bro. They're the most annoying to debate. And to keep it real with y'all, I don't think anybody has debated more Zionists than I have. And I'm not even trying to be cocky. I truly don't think there's any other streamer or creator that's debated more Zionists. Can you guys think of anybody? Maybe Cenk or Mehdi Hassan? But bruh, crazy.
Is targeting our civilians, our children.
I'm talking about debating them like in every way. Guys, remember, I used to set up tables saying 9/11 was an inside job and shit. And then I'm also talking to them on Twitter Spaces, all that shit. Like, dude.
Our elderly is doing. We are aiming at military targets, but the Iranian regime is targeting our civilians, our children, our elderly. But this is not only happening here in Israel. The Iranian regime is attacking the entire region. 8 countries. I repeat, 8 countries.
Attacked 7 countries. So what is your point?
In the region were attacked by ballistic missiles of Iran.
But what, bro? Yo, there's an old proverb, guys, that says the will smack you as he cries, right? This is exactly what this is. Guys will attack the Iranians, and when these punch them back in the face and give them a bloody nose, they come in and become victims. Incredible, bro. They literally cry as they strike you, dude. Oh, they hit us with ballistic missiles. Okay, Mordecai, why did they hit you with ballistic missiles? Oh, you hundreds of thousands of Palestinians? Oh, you guys are constantly bombing the Middle East and starting wars? Oh, you guys are literally the reason that the Middle East has been completely destabilized? Oh, you bomb indiscriminately innocent people all the time? You've bombed their embassy? You've bombed their allies? Like, what the did you think was going to happen, bro? Like, these are incredible, bro. The Israelis can't actually fight or do anything unless they're children, dude. Like this are demons, dude. I showed you guys the story of Hind Rajab, and it was one of the most heartbreaking, horrible things I've ever heard in my life. And I'm gonna play it for you guys so we don't forget this little girl. So let me, sorry, I get emotional every time I talk about this child. I'm gonna keep playing this. I'm gonna find you guys the clip, and I want you guys to see why I go so hard at these. I'll keep playing it.
Not only Arab countries are targeted by Iranian regime missiles. And we say it very clear. We don't have any fight, any quarrel with the Iranian people. The only objective, the only quarrel is the Iranian regime murderous attacks. This is what it's all about.
Ovation at nearly 24 minutes. And who is it about? The film The Voice of Hind Rajab premiered at the apart from her and Hind. The Palestinian Red Crescent story of Hind Rajab, the 24.
All right, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna give you guys a disclaimer. You're probably gonna rage after you see this. So if you're sensitive, you have children, maybe whatever, this is graphic, bro, and you're gonna get mad. I'm about to give you guys a pill. So sit back and watch and listen to this closely.
4 minutes. And who is it about? The film, The Voice of Hind Rajab, premiered at the Venice Film Festival on Wednesday. It tells the story of Hind Rajab, the 5-year-old Palestinian child who became a symbol of Israel's atrocities in Gaza. Her story began on January 29th, 2024, when Israel's military told residents of Gaza City to evacuate immediately. So Hind's family got in a car and began to drive north. But a few hundred meters later, they stopped. Hind's 15-year-old cousin Leanne called her uncle to tell him they were surrounded and Israel's army had opened fire on the car. Everyone inside apart from her and Hind. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society, or PRCS, made contact with Leanne that afternoon.
Hello, marhaba.
It says, he says, hello, and then the girl's frantically saying the tank is next to me. I'll read it for you guys because they're speaking Arabic, but there are subtitles here. The 911 operator says, are you hiding? Yes, in the car. We're next to the tank. Are you inside the car? I think you know what that is. Inside? Are you inside the car?
Hello? Hello?
62 gunshots could be heard over just 6 seconds as Leanne screamed for her life and the call ended in just under a minute. The PRCS called back immediately and Hind picked up.
The sister, Hind Rajab, the child, now she calls 911, right? And this is what she says. This is going to break your heart, man.
PRCS called back immediately and Hind picked up.
She says they are dead. The operator says, are they dead? And she says, yes. She says, are they dead? And she says, yes. Are they in the car with you right now? Yes. The tank is coming at you from the front. Hind says, Hind says, yes. Operator, is it very close? Yes, very, very close. Is it moving? Yes. Don't be scared. She says to the operator, please stay with me. The operator responds, I'm with you, sweetie.
The Red Crescent got permission from Israel's defense ministry to send an ambulance to try rescue Hind, but as the ambulance turned onto Hind Street, explosions were heard and the line dropped. The paramedics were no longer responding. Hind was still on the call, alone and surrounded by the dead bodies of her family members. It was beginning to get dark. The Red Crescent had gotten her mother on the phone. They all did what they could to get her to keep talking, but she began to fall silent for long periods of time. When they asked why she wasn't speaking, she said, every time I talk, blood comes out of my mouth and makes my clothes dirty, and I don't want my mum to have to clean it. They told her to stay in the car where they could find her, and that if night comes and they still have...
I'm going to play that again so this sinks in for you guys. She's on the 911 call. She's saying, please don't leave me. So the operator gets her to talk so they can keep proving signs of life, because she had stopped talking and started going quiet. And then this is how she responds.
To fall silent for long periods of time. When they asked why she wasn't speaking, she said, every time I talk, blood comes out of my mouth and makes my clothes dirty, and I don't want my mum to have to clean it. They told her to stay in the car.
The fact that she didn't even know that she was dying because she said, I don't want my mom to be mad at me. That tells me she doesn't even know what blood is. She doesn't know what's going on. This is an innocent child that was left in her car and slaughtered. And we heard it on audio. This child was so innocent that she didn't know she was dying. She barely even understood what blood was and what was happening to her. So every time you guys see me go into one of these spaces and I call these Zionist or genocidal maniacs because I don't give a fuck, I'm saying that on behalf of Hind Rajab because unfortunately there's millions of stories like this of children in the Middle East getting completely annihilated with the Israelis and bad American foreign policy. So now you guys know why I fight so hard, deal with the demonetization, deal with criticizing, deal with the going viral, losing my Shopify store, losing my monetization, losing opportunities, becoming persona non grata where people are terrified to have me on. But I don't give a And this is one of the main reasons why I go so hard on talking about and red pilling you guys. I guarantee 80-90% of you guys that are watching this right now had no idea of this story. And as much as I have to say, you know, because I do get mad at myself that I constantly repeat a lot of this, but something always comes to the back of my mind that there's people that haven't heard this before. And this Hind Rajab story is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life, because it goes to show that children are truly innocent and they don't deserve to be in a situation like this. She didn't know she was dying, chat. She didn't know, because she thought she'd be able to see her mom again. And she was more concerned with her mom yelling at her to clean her clothes versus what was going on. So now you guys know one of the main reasons why I go so hard on these guys. So real quick, guys, give me ones in the chat if this is the first time you've heard this. I want to get a general gist. And please be honest, if you heard of the story before or if you heard the call before, just put a 2. But if you've heard of if this is your first time hearing the story, please give me a 1. 1 if you've never heard of this. 2 if you have and heard this audio. Yeah, I see people in the chat saying that they're crying. It's fine, bro. You guys get a pass, dude. You guys get a pass. I'm not even, this isn't about being weak in front of your or anything else like that. This is like a human, bro. This is a child. So anyway, I'll keep playing it. But I just wanted y'all to see that.
Where they could find her, and that if not for long periods of time.
All right, I'll just play all the way through without stopping.
Dead bodies of her family members. It was beginning to get dark. The Red Crescent had gotten her mother on the phone. They all did what they could to get her to keep talking, but she began to fall silent for long periods of time. When they asked why she wasn't speaking, she said, "Every time I talk, blood comes out of my mouth and makes my clothes dirty, and I don't want my mum to have to clean it." They told her to stay in the car where they could find her, and that if night comes and they still haven't arrived, she should close her eyes so she doesn't see the tanks.
She says, "It's almost night, I'm scared. Come on, get me, please." The operator says, "Darling, I swear if I could, I would come to you."
The call broke off shortly after. They tried to call again and again, but no one answered. No one could reach the area for nearly 2 weeks. Once they did, they saw the Red Crescent ambulance that had come to try rescue her was a burned out shell, with almost nothing remaining of the paramedics' bodies. Further up the street, the door and parts of the hood from Hind's car had been torn off. The windows were
see the blood
blown out, and it was covered in bullet holes. A total of 335 bullets had been fired at the car. The body of Hind's uncle was still dangling from the driver's seat. The car smelled of decomposing corpses from the dead bodies of the 5 children piled together in the back seat. The family was buried together outside Al Shifa Hospital, and their murder became a rallying cry for activists around the world. Students raised awareness about Hind on university campuses worldwide, and the Hind Rajab Foundation was set up to prosecute Israeli soldiers accused of war crimes internationally. When Tunisian filmmaker Kauthar Ben Hania heard the audio recording of Hind, she decided to drop everything and make the film, saying, "I cannot accept a world where a child calls for help and no one comes." She got
evil, dude.
The full 70-minute audio from the Red Crescent. And
this dude. I always make fun of this lady right here is a hero, bro. A fucking hero, this one, for making this movie and bringing awareness to it.
Testimonies from Hind's.
And she said no child should ever have to suffer like that when they're asking for help. And I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mother and others who had been over the phone, reconstructing the story. Once it was underway, names like Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, Jonathan Glazer, and Alfonso Cuarón signed on as executive producers. It was then nominated for the Golden Lion, the highest prize given to films at the Venice Film Festival, to mark important contributions to cinema. In a time where people are constantly exposed to short bursts of violence and suffering online, Ben Hania focused on the retelling of violence through Hind's voice rather than video. In this way, she said, cinema can preserve a memory and cinema can resist amnesia. The movie, a simple story about a child being trapped alone and no one coming to rescue her, may do exactly that.
Rest in peace. But now you guys know why I do the things that I do. That's one of the big reasons why.
Today, drone strike hit Oman. There's possibilities now of oil rigs, multiple vessels, tankers also have been attacked.
Right.
So those aspects. Hormuz,
awesome. Thank you, Ninjas.
Arab component in this conversation to see if they break away from the United States or they kind of get much more forcefully involved, or both publicly or militarily. But I mean, the American casualties obviously is something that that from the Iranian perspective, they can claim a win. That's something that they have kind of lacking. And from a psychological perspective on then the information warfare, that's probably what we're going to see them push heavily enough, especially with the death of the Supreme Leader last night confirmed by Iran after the first volley. So I think what we're seeing is posturing across the board from an information warfare perspective, from a diplomatic perspective, and that's going to really feed into the conversations, I think, in the next 24 to 48 hours is, do we see this kind of hardening of both positions and this kind of different kind of off-ramp, or is there a diplomatic breakthrough? I just do think that, Trump, it would be interesting to see if he plays the Maduro card, right, in the sense that the Supreme Leader, I've achieved my goal of, quote unquote, I'm going to use that loosely, regime change, quote unquote. So then with the next area, we can have negotiations and see if Iran is, more acquiescence to American demands. I think that's kind of the key questions, but that's what I'm looking for the James. Now that especially Sunday, a lot of the political rhetoric, the talk shows, those are some of the things that we all need to look at to see how that kind of frames everything, because the diplomatic front is now going to be the key aspect. Go ahead, James.
I think diplomacy is dead, guys, at this point. That's kind of a pipe dream.
Just a quick question in terms of this negotiation. Do you think it's something that can be done before? I don't think it's possible, but before the markets open tomorrow, or are we going?
No, I mean, Myron, I don't necessarily disagree with you. There's this whole diplomacy perspective. I don't necessarily disagree with you per se, but like again, if somebody were to ask me, what am I looking right? Like, what is the things I'm looking? James, I don't think this is. We're not going to get there was a really weird opinion piece in Ynet that claims, but again, it's an opinion piece. Just take that for what it's worth, claiming that now Trump, because he commenting, he's like, okay, mission accomplished. I wanted immediate ceasefire using Italy as a mediator, and Iran flat out rejected. We haven't seen any reporting backing that up from the U.S. perspective, right? Again, if we're going to see something like that, we're probably going to hear it first from U.S. media rather than Israeli media. Like, let's just make sure we understand where this is going. And to Myron's perspective, I think the diplomacy aspect is very difficult. It's interesting, Trump's call in the Atlantic.
I think it's completely fake. I don't even think it's real at all. But you go ahead. You finish what you're going to say, and I can give you my position.
Because that's the thing. The Atlantic saying Trump says, well, the Iranian new leaders reached out for negotiation. But again, we have to be very, very cognizant in all of this. Right now, that conflict has started. Right, we're now outside of what we were doing this in the past. The way we need to analyze this is, and again, we're limited to what's publicly discussed, PAI, OSINT, et cetera. Right, so we have to put that in a caveat. What's the one area where we're going to see the most amount of disinformation, misinformation, not from a construct of trying to trick people, but like to try to distract and everything, right? And that's right now in public domain. And so
if I can just get something into this, would it be possible that the US is trying to deleverage, and so they got their win? They Khamenei, they get the leader, the head of the snake, same with Venezuela, and now they are just the protector of the region, and Iran hash it out for the next, because Israel is ready. They said that Netanyahu went on a roof in Tel Aviv and said, I'm ready to go the long way. Would it be possible for them to deleverage themselves without involving Iran?
No, I mean, anything is possible, right? I mean, in the end of the day, anything's possible. We've seen that. Look, I think, James, that the question we have is, I think there's a window of opportunity that both the U.S. and are looking at. I think that the American casualties, even President Trump during his opening statement alluded to there will be American casualties because of this operation, right? So the question is there a political pushback because of it? However, we have seen American casualties at the hands of pro-Iranian groups in the past, specifically in Jordan during the Biden administration, where 3 Americans were killed in a drone strike.
So let me kind of come in here before we go into the other topics. When it comes to diplomacy, because that was my main thing. With the diplomacy, the reason why I have that position that it's cooked is because this is the second time now that we've attacked them in the middle of negotiations, right? So there's really no impetus on their side to negotiate with us, because every time we negotiate with them, it's kind of to help, get them more calm. And apparently, and I heard this from a source, I'm not 100% sure, apparently the Trump, this is verified. They were waiting for all the top leaders to be in one location, and were using the Geneva talks as an excuse to get them to meet to discuss something. And that's what they blew them up. So the U.S. has shown on multiple occasions that they're not trustworthy when it comes to diplomacy.
What a bunch of
Okay.
Hold on. Let me just jump in. Hold on. Let me jump in here. Like one of the interesting on to the left of this, right, is it was this kind of this constant thing where red lines were established. The Iranians would come and like on the other side, right? Because I understand your point, Myron. And then the other side is the Iranians would come up with a kind of this. Oh, we have a breakthrough, and they would present it. It's nowhere close to any of the negotiation requirements. But then they would say, okay, we need 2 to 3 days or 2 weeks, and they would and we tell this, right? So those are kind of the two aspects. But what, to your point, but what you're highlighting, Myron, I think is you can analyze it from both perspectives, right? I can agree that, from the Iranian perspective, I would agree if I'm analyzing this from Iran, they're saying, why am I going to continue to negotiate if this is the second time this has happened, right? And I think that's why that's why we haven't seen a repeat of after Midnight Hammer. We did a symbolic strike against IUD, win is a win. Like this is something that people said, if Iran's going to strike back, they have to like quote, give a bloody nose, because if not, they've lost all semblance of deterrence, right? I don't think they've been as effective as they would like, even with the American casualties that happened in Bahrain. They haven't been as effective. Clearly, they want to continue this to at least get something like that. From the American perspective, and more importantly, from the Israeli perspective, I think like this is the prime opportunity. And in other words, are we going to like?
This Henry guy that said this is all. What is your argument to my position?
Yeah, the argument is that, well, one, you're operating in bad faith as you always do, but more to the point, the idea, and Myron, you know this. Come on, it's a rip you understand. Like they're not both approaching each other with like some serious negotiation. Like they're both in good faith. Like this notion that one is in more serious or more morally upright than the other. Come on, man, that's just silly. It's just silly.
So, okay, but let me jump in, Myron.
So let me make sure I clarify his claim. So you're saying that I'm making the argument that one has a moral high ground. Is that what I'm trying to understand your actual argument?
Let me ask you a question, Henry. And it goes to your point, Myron. I think it goes to your point, but Henry, let me ask you this, right? Because I think this is what I was getting at from the Trump perspective, right? And I think within President Trump, two different. I don't think they have necessarily this. Although the strikes was regime change. The question. Hold on. The question of regime. Oh, go ahead.
It's a breaking. The UAE capitals have closed market on Monday and Tuesday.
Well, not surprised.
Okay, can I please get what Henry's argument is?
I'm going to ask Henry this question. Let me ask Henry this question. The question that I have for you, Henry, because I think there's a difference between when we talk about quote unquote regime change. There's a answer and there's a U.S. answer. I think it's different from the American perspective, right? The question now becomes, because it's to your point. Well, now with let's say the assassination of the supreme leader, let's say the new government comes in, why wouldn't negotiations stand a chance now? Why not give negotiation with somebody else and see if there's a willingness and give that an opportunity without bombs flying left and right? I guess in a way, why not now give it diplomacy just like we did Venezuela? We gave Venezuela a second chance.
Yeah, I think the context is much different in Venezuela, number one. Number two, I don't think the Trump administration, I think the idea that they're going into this with some notion that they could really have a like robust, reasonable discussion with this regime, given its history, given the people involved. I just don't think that's fair. And frankly, I'd feel the same way if I'm in Iran's shoes with Iran's goals. Why would I trust anything from the Trump regime?
All right,
if I'm under the belief, hold on, Mark. If I'm under the belief that they're acting as a puppet of and blah 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 and whatever, then like why would I seriously do? All I would do is negotiate and pretend that I'm kind of going through the maneuvers to kind of and I think Trump, the reason why he went through all this, so you say, well, why did he go through all this? I think they went through all this so that they can kind of communicate to the world at least the facade of the notion that we tried, we did this,
all right,
did this.
Henry, how am I wrong?
We're trying to negotiate and going.
Please answer the question. How am I wrong from what I said before?
Because the way you framed it, and again, apologies if you didn't intend this, Byron, but you framed it as though Iran's approaching this in reasonably good faith and they're being deceived, and that's just horseshit.
Are you okay? So let me get this straight.
Well, let me ask.
Seth, you got to chill, bro. I'm gonna bake this guy. Let me work, okay?
Gonna bake him. Here we go.
Yeah, we're literally about to bake this dude. So let me get this straight.
About to bake him.
You're saying that I'm wrong, that the United States feigned diplomacy in order to create an opening for the Israelis to attack. Did you hear about Operation
that's
Rising
not what I
Lion,
said.
dude?
Respond to what I said. Instead of being your typical coward self, respond directly to what I said. Or listen to the adults in here. Sitrep is a tremendous mind. Why don't you just listen to him?
Give your position one more time, because it interrupted.
Is it really that confusing? Your framing of the situation, very simply, is that somehow Iran is acting in reasonably good faith.
Okay.
And in the United States and are not, in some unique way that they themselves are not. Right? So that somehow, well, they're trying to do the right thing, but they can't, and blah 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 blah. Come on, man.
Okay, mobilizing half your military, mobilizing half your military, and saying let's do a deal is not good faith. that's feigning diplomacy and buying time to get more resource in area.
And Iran did the same thing.
No.
So, and they have a history. Like, what are we talking about, dude?
Iran did that because they attacked them in June, dude. Are you serious?
That's why. Because they attacked them in June. Because that's the fullness of the story. That's the fullness of the story for your audience. Your audience is so simple-minded and so shallow.
I don't want to mute. I don't want to mute. I don't want to mute. Please, let me just jump in as a co-host.
I'm sorry, Sitrep. It's just such silly,
it's fine.
shallow analysis.
This guy's argument is he's saying that the U.S. and are not negotiating they're negotiating from a position of good faith.
Another cowardly reframing, dude. Another cowardly reframing.
No.
Okay, wait. All right. Okay, briefly, how to use it. Okay, guys, I appreciate the back and forth. I appreciate the back and forth. And I think this is the crux of the issues, and I'm glad that the debate and the passion came through kind of from the analytical perspective, because I think the key aspect right now is that, right, is from the framing of diplomacy and the idea of what we're getting today, when yesterday's last 24 hours was all military, now we're getting this question of diplomacy possibly. I think it's a very long shot, but it's very possible. And I think there's aspects of what you guys are highlighting and bringing up to is this distrust from both sides, and how can that distrust gets forward? Because again, this isn't a war I don't believe this is going to be a war that either Iran, the United States, or even wants to last for a year or 2 years, or a repeat of Russia. And we're not looking at 2003 Iraq. That's not what's going on here. And it's funny, because I have Ozzy.
Okay, let me.
When I've had this conversation.
Okay, let me respond to that, bro, because you keep cutting me off. Okay, you're saying the Iranians are not acting in good faith. Okay, what's the JCPOA? What ended up happening? We went ahead. Hold on, let me finish. We had the JCPOA. We had several partner countries overseeing their nuclear program. Trump comes into office, pulls out the JCPOA under pressure from Mike Pompeo. Then he makes the IRGC a terrorist organization while he was Secretary of State. Then that gave them the justification to sanction the hell out of Iran. Then Trump gets into office and assists with attacking Iran after dismantled the acts of resistance. And while they were doing negotiations, and they had a negotiation day set up, I think on the weekend or the following week coming up, they bombed Iran alongside. Okay.
Is that all you have, man? Is that all you have?
No. I'm responding to your question.
Is that all you have?
I've literally given you bulletproof.
Oh, that's fine.
Facts.
Go ahead, man. That's not bulletproof anything, dude. That's not bulletproof anything.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so while they're negotiating, they attack them. Okay. To add insult to
injury, the whole time,
yo,
Iran
dude, you gotta shut up, bro.
In good faith.
You gotta shut up.
And the whole time,
you gotta shut up.
All right.
Are you serious?
Okay, all right. So I never made that argument. I have to jump in, and you guys cannot just do this back. Like, if you guys want to have it, let one person talk and let one person fit. Myron?
Yeah, I'm responding because he's trying to say that the Israelis act in good faith alongside the United States. My argument is, no, they're not, and I'm giving you multiple situations. Iranians.
I never made that claim. I never made that claim. You keep reframing it because you don't actually have anything to stand on.
Dude,
but that's
you're
okay.
Holy dude.
Okay,
dude.
Wait. Okay, let's not do personal attacks.
I got thousands of people watching right now on stream, and they're literally all saying you're a
And truth is a democracy. Come on, you're going to make the argument now, dude. Come on,
thousands of people on the internet saying you're fucking right now.
Thousands of people.
Yes.
Hey guys, hello. All right, Myron, you're not understanding the point, and I think what the aspect of what Henry's saying. I'm not arguing one way or another. It's the framing of this that's going to determine, because I do not think either side wants this to be a long, drawn out war, and this is neither Trump nor Iran. That is not the interest. And I've had this conversation with Ozzy, because Ozzy's point, before this conflict started, her point was, if the U.S. tries to do regime change, you're inviting a drawn out war. And her argument is, this has not been from a rhetorical perspective. And Ozzy, I'm going to push it onto you as co-host.
Wait, why are me and Henry didn't finish. Like, what? I was going through all the reasons.
Hey, Sitrep, 1 second, Myron, 1 second, please.
Bro.
Citrip, you want to go ahead? What was the rest of that?
Right. I want to give it to you, because what I think Myron is bringing up is a good, and Henry, this back and forth is, what are the problem that we're running into is because how the United States did this operation, it was regime change type operation, right? So my question to you is, from your perspective, I'd love your input.
How are we going to move over to her when I didn't finish talking with Henry about the feigning diplomacy?
Myron, if you hang tight, it might actually help guide this conversation you guys are having along. So, Citrip, what's the question?
Myron, just give us a second, man. You guys had a lot of back and forth. We have to invite other people's in. Just 1 second.
If I may, can I just answer your question and then leave, because I have to leave. And I have an idea how to answer your question. So basically, how can we go back to negotiations is your question, as far as I understand.
Yeah, this is ridiculous, bro. This is ridiculous.
And I believe it's not a good idea to try something that failed twice. So in the negotiations, the diplomacy in Amman, they failed 2 times now. And if it's a 3rd time, it will fail again. And we now see that the Ommani Foreign Ministry statements are not taken serious by any side. So no one is believing what the Ommani Foreign Ministry is saying about the stand of the negotiations, which indicates to me that it was not a good mediation. So we need a new approach. And this new approach partially depends on the US, but more on Iran to change its attitude towards diplomacy and negotiations. I believe now with UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and all the states attacked, that there is a more willingness in the region to make this not into a bilateral negotiations between the US and Iran, but into a multilateral negotiation. And I believe this is the solution that could eventually lead to a diplomatic solution that could last. Because now everyone has its stakes, and if there are more states involved in direct negotiations, not indirect negotiations, then we would have more witnesses and more people who would eventually push the Trump administration, push the Iranians to reach a deal. So this is the only potential part that I see eventually, if both sides are willing, that could lead to a more manageable or lasting solution. Otherwise,
all right, I'm going to finish my point, dude. I'm going to finish my point and then keep it moving.
I have a sentence,
bro.
I have a sentence.
Dude, are you serious?
Myron, yes, he actually let's get him his last sentence and then
sentence, and I'm going, dude.
He's an actual academic.
That doesn't mean anything. Let him finish his point. I'm gonna the last sentence. I'm gonna go. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So what I want to say is, if we reach a ceasefire under current circumstances similar to what we reached in the past, we will see an eventual war happening in the next 6 months, 5 months, or whatever.
Okay. Anyway, the argument I'm making. Let's start base one. I think diplomacy is dead at this point for the short term, because the Israelis and the United States have proven that they don't negotiate in good faith. Let's go back to 2015. JCPOA, Trump comes in, rips it up under pressure with Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo is a hardcore Zionist. He designates the IRGC as a terrorist organization. Now they can justify crippling sanctions. That's one. Two, as they're doing negotiations with the United States for the nuclear program, and I say that with air quotes, what happens? They're bombed by the Israelis in a sneak attack in Operation Rising Lion. Then you fast forward a couple of months later to where we are now. They're in Geneva talking to Iran again. And while they're having these discussions, guess what happens? They get attacked again. And I also want to make it explicitly clear that the nuclear angle is a angle that's utilized to justify a regional war, because what Israel's really scared of are the ballistic missiles. And there's a reason why Israeli TV isn't live right now while Al Jazeera is. Tel Aviv is getting pummeled right now. So, dude, you are so wrong. It's incredible. If you're going to make the argument that in America are negotiating in good faith, I have multiple examples of that.
Tel Aviv is getting pummeled. Okay,
yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
So,
can I respond to
Bro.
Okay.
Yo.
Jesus Christ.
Dude.
I will have this space muted. I was here 16 hours last night doing this live, literally. So
okay.
I'm not doing this for everybody. Let Myron finish his point. Stop unmuting other people but Myron, land the plane, get there, and then by the way, let me share some breaking news if it matters to frame Myron to your perspective. Hold on. President Trump just released the following statement. I have just been informed on a Truth Social. I've just been informed that we have destroyed and sunk 9 Iranian naval ships, some of them relatively large and important. We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea, also. In a different attack, we largely destroyed their naval headquarters. Other than that, their Navy is doing very well. President Donald J. Trump. Okay, Myron, finish your point. For the love of God, don't interrupt him.
To summarize, I think the United States and have not been operating in good faith since pulling out the JCPOA, luring them to do more diplomacy than attacking them during Operation Midnight Hammer and Rising Lion. Then, fast forward to now, they're doing talks in Geneva using the nuclear weapons excuse, and they attacked them again. I gave you 3 different factual examples of how they are not negotiating good faith. I'll turn it there.
Okay. So
all right. Fuck those. I don't even want to engage with them, dude. That Henry guy is such a dude. My brain was hurting, dude. Hurting. And guys, you notice how like everyone in the space knows who I am, but I don't know who the fuck they are? Isn't that interesting? And that sit rep guy, dude, he's literally the worst. Bro just likes to hear himself talk, dude. And I know some of you guys were in pain right there, but I had to get that out, dude. I had to get that out because that would have been fun. So incredible.
The Straits of Hormuz.
And I didn't want to be an asshole and throw my weight around, but bro, nobody knows these, bro. Like, I really, this is cringe me saying this. I got more clout than all those combined, bro. Like they should be shutting the fuck up when I talk. And I hate saying that. I hate saying that, but it's the truth, bro. It's the truth. This is why I hate Twitter so much, bro. Everyone on here thinks their opinion matters. These
may be the linchpin from a market's perspective.
I give 3 concrete examples as to how the Israelis and the United States never negotiate in good faith. What does this say? You reframed. What? Like chat. Like, yo, give me ones in the chat. If yo, guys, I want y'all to be completely honest. Am I crazy? Like that. Give me a 1 in the chat if y'all think I'm crazy, or give me a 2 in the chat if you think these are on some bull. 1 if you think I'm crazy. 2 if these dudes are on some. Okay, fair. Okay, I saw 1 person say you're crazy. All right, I just want to make sure, bro, because that was nuts, dude. I'm like in a bizarro world, dude. Incredible.